Michael can do. So there's several white posts there. This whole field is about 5 acres, but the corners of one white post in the middle and then the corners, that is 1/10 of an acre. So what we're telling Michael is, you can ask us to do anything under the sun and we will do it. You show us what this biology thing is all about. So it's really an experiment for us within our bigger experiment, which our mindset is keep experimenting, keep pushing the envelope.
Thank you, Bob. So I have the worst part of the field to get back up and running maybe in a year, but it's not a problem. We can do it. We can convert this 1/10 of an acre to prime farmland in a year, but we can't do it with the current agricultural model that's being practiced today. We have to use a different model, a model that works with nature, and instead of trying to outguess nature or to control nature, we're going to add the biology back to the soil and go that direction. So the first thing we're going to do is, when Keith was talking about cover crops, I went out here and seeded a rye cover crop and was wondering if you guys were going to do the whole field, and hopefully Keith will get you a mix to do the whole field with lots of legumes and other cereals. So plants are number one. We got to get something growing out there 24/7. And next, because the organic matter here is below or right at 1%, we have no hope of holding on to the organisms that are in the soil. We need at least 3 percentage points of 3% organic matter to hold on to the organisms we're going to add. So what we're going to do to get the organic matter up is over there is a pile of wood chips. It's one pile of many that's going to be coming. So I'm going to spread out on this 1/10 of an acre about 1 inch of wood chips. And then I'm going to inoculate it with compost tea and compost extract. So what we're going to do is, I'm making compost for this site. I'm going to extract the organisms in the compost and spray it on in a liquid in a water bath. And then we'll inoculate it, so over that wintertime period, the bacteria and fungi and their predators will break down the wood and convert it into organic matter. So if you put on 1 inch of wood chips in the fall period, you can get on average 0.5 percentage point increase in your organic matter in 1 year. So wood chips on a small scale, like if you're doing a garden, that works really well. But like I told Bob, we are committed no-tillers the minute we start adding wood chips to your soil. We cannot till this. This has to be completely no-till. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to mix our seeds with charcoal, or what we're going to do is take charcoal, grind it up, and you can pass it around. We're going to take charcoal and grind it up, and we're going to inoculate it with compost to make biochar. So biochar is a really fast way to inoculate your soils with biology when you don't have a lot of organic matter. What happens is the microbes take up residence in the charcoal is basically wood, the cells of a plant that have been carbonized. Everything else has been blown off as gases, and the microbes take up residence in those cells. And they take up long-term residence because they'll stay in that charcoal for approximately 2,000 years. So it's like a coral reef for your soil. It's a safe harbor. You can actually do some tillage without killing the seed source of the microbes you put into the soil. So we're going to use that as a seed dress. There is a bucket of charcoal. We're going to make biochar and throw it on the surface with the wood chips. And we're going to try that as well. But we are going to go all out with the biology.
So Keith, you talked about composting this morning, and we never had that conversation. When he describes all this, it's kind of like, no way on God's green earth that a commercial farmer is ever going to do that. And then you talk about composting. Are they talking about the same fundamentals or what?
Well, I think we're trying to get to the same end goal. There's a lot of ways to do that. I had one question, and then I'll make a few more comments. Are you going to try to get that biochar to stick to the seed, or are you just trying to get it in the seed trench?
Both. If it sticks, I had a producer here that just left, but he used it as a seed inoculant, and he mixed water. He dribbled water into his planter boxes, and then hand mixed the seed until it was dry.
Yeah.
And that worked. And then we're just going to, on my plot, I'm just going to throw out the biochar on the surface along with the wood chips. So the bacteria and fungus is really interesting. Once you get into the microbiology, it's absolutely fascinating. is the bacteria and fungus are immortal. They don't die of old age, but you can kill them. So when the bacteria and fungus go into the biochar, they take up residence in that biochar for as long as the biochar stays in the soil. So charcoal or biochar, when you put it in the soil, is recalcitrant. It can stay in the soil for 2,000 years without being broken down. And so this is like a coral reef that you're putting into the soil. And what happens is the bacteria and fungi grow out in chains or threads, following the concentration gradient of the root exudates of your plants. The original seed stays in the biochar, but as it replicates because of the root exudates, it grows out. So you will now always have a seed source in your soil for the microbiology.
Yeah. I think that those are all great ideas. What do you know what rate your biochar you're going to spread on top? Just kind of whatever you have left.
Yeah, I'm making it. I have around 60 gallons of biochar that I collected from burning wood for heating my house.
Okay.
So I'm going to use that. I've already inoculated that. I'm going to crush it with a hammer and use that as for the cover crop seed. That if you don't do the cover crop seed for the rest of the field, I'm going to get hairy vetch, a bunch of other cover crop seed, inoculate that with biochar and throw it on here. Because the biology is part of the solution. The plants are the rest.
Right.
So you got to get the diversity like you're talking about, Keith.
Yeah, and we use a lot of wood chips when we can find them in our compost, because the higher the carbon in your ingredients going into that compost, the more fungal component you're going to have, because it takes fungus to break that down. You do have to be a little careful that you don't get too much on, or you'll mess up the carbon nitrogen ratios in your soil. And again, all of those microbes are going to be pulling nitrogen out of the soil to break down that wood. So an inch